Well, just this interview is just I would just love to ask you a few questions, kind of just take you through a series of questions of your experience in the program and kind of where you were and your journey through. And then we'll just talk a little bit about your participation now as a leader in the program and things like that.
Okay, that sounds great.
Sound good? Okay, cool. Okay, cool. Well, if you could tell me maybe a little bit more about what your main symptoms were when you first enrolled, and what was your sort of emotional and physical experience at that time?
Yes, so I had a lot going on. I had 3 children under 3 when I first began having symptoms, and my mother had just passed 2 weeks before the birth of our 3rd child, and I was suffering from mold toxicity. I had adrenal fatigue. I was just super tired. I could barely take care of my family. My husband was constantly having to step in. I'd have these just chronic, like, sicknesses of, like, upper respiratory infections every month. They would just not stop. I was easily winded. I had lots of vertigo. I would faint very frequently. And I've always had purple toes, which I thought that was just normal, but it turns out it's not. Some blood pooling there. And it just got to this point where I did some tests, but I knew that there was like the Western way, and then I knew that there was a different way of healing, and I really wanted to be healed. Like, I didn't wanna just put a Band-Aid over my symptoms, which a lot of people were just like, "Oh, just take this supplement," or, "Oh, just cut out gluten," and I tried those things, but it just wasn't enough, and I think something too that I'm probably jumping the gun here. The thing I was really, really missing is, like, the limbic work of, like, the mental, stability that I was craving and really needing to heal. Anyway, so I was all over the place, and I guess I just really, really wanted to have my life back. I just felt like I was just, like, depending on my husband or depending on others. I was also just in a very constant state of fight or flight where I just couldn't relax with my kids. I was so afraid to go to the grocery store. Like, I was paralyzed. And then my husband's like, "We really need to do something, Sarah." And like, I really wanted something to happen too, because I didn't like who I was. I didn't like that I couldn't show up for my family in the way that I really desired. And then I found the Integrative Health Foundation. So, yes.
How many how many years do you think that progression happened? Because it's something that I'm really, that I talk about a lot with everybody is that when you get into that state of kind of dysbiosis and health things are starting to show up, I feel like it can happen really slowly and progressively over a long period of time, almost to a point where you forget what it was like actually to be that healthy kid. Or, depending on how old or young you are and when things started to shift for you. But in my journey, I think it really happened in my teen years. I remember being this like very vibrant, happy child. But as my diet and a lot of things going on in my life, I progressed and I didn't get diagnosed until I was not about 19. But I think probably 4 years before that, if I look back, I was sleeping all the time and, I had anxiety coming up and like there was all these sorts of things going on. You mentioned that you had, blue feet for a long time as well. How long do you think it was? I think, one of the cool things that I'm trying to get at is like, I kind of feel like we forget what it's like to have like a real vibrant human experience. You just kind of, all of a sudden, you slowly been burdened by all of these things. And then you kind of just like, that's what the human experience is like. You kind of brain fogged, tired, maybe anxious a lot. Everyone's a little bit different in terms of their symptoms and things like that. And then it comes to a precipice and you have to make a decision. But I'm just curious about that sort of lead up? Like how long do you think that was when you look back on it?
Looking back, I wanna say that it probably goodness, about 11 years ago, I wanna say, yeah, leading up and even, in high school, I too wasn't the healthiest. I remember, like, having walking pneumonia a lot, but I
Mhm.
still wanted to play sports, and so I just acted like I was okay, but it's so fascinating that we just do that to just kind of be okay, but as time goes on, I feel like the body has its mechanisms to say, "Hey, like, we need to look at this. Let's stop. Let's."
Mm.
And I'm grateful for that. It's a gift. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it is a gift. That's so true. Because when I look back on my journey as well, I think there's a certain level of resilience that develops when you're an individual that maybe is struggling more than your peers and those around you. And you probably don't know why, but you just kind of grit your teeth a little bit and go, all right, I'm a little bit different. And and maybe it's like for me, it was sort of like, was it a psychological thing? Because I wasn't fully aware, I just knew that I got really anxious in some environments and then, you know, there were mental and psychological things that probably came up first before I really started to regress physically, swelling in the legs and then, real brain fog and then to a point where I was just wanting to sleep all day. But there are absolute benefits that come with that journey for sure. Yeah. So then you went through when you decided to sort of make that change, you had been experimenting and trying a lot of different sort of things, modalities at the time. Did you ever look at sort of Western medicine, or was it always more of a whole body approach?
Yeah, for me, it was always a whole body approach. I know that our bodies are like very miraculous healing machines. And I just saw time after time, just in the Western medicine, how like people come out worse, like they're more wounded or they have more issues afterwards. And so I always say, like, I'm just going to see there had to have been some sort of solution to just like the natural order of our bodies. And like, if we give them what they need, they can heal. And so that's what I wanted to invest and spend my money on. And just, okay, like I gave it my all because I wanted to heal. So yeah, I've always wanted to do this. And I think I just did a few tests, like the HTMA tests. And let's see, I don't know if I've done, like, other than, like, routine blood work. I didn't go too deep into it. I was just very afraid of being put on medication, which I really didn't want to go down that rabbit hole. So I just said, "Okay, let me invest in this. Let me just see if I give my body what they tell me I need to do and eat and do, let's see what happens." So,
Oh, interesting. So once you sort of had made the decision, you didn't try too many things. You just came across us and you just felt like, okay, this sounds good. I'm gonna, yeah, jump in.
yes, absolutely. And I will say I did have a background where I had been, like, researching the GAPS diet, I don't know if
Mhm.
but, like, it looks like it's a beautiful and healing diet, and it's the diet, of the Integrative Health Foundation, and so it's just that kind of helped me choose this and that I
Mhm.
the GAPS protocol, that was a really, I guess, a green light for me that helped me
Yeah.
choose this, yeah.
Did you read Dr. Natasha Campbell's book and sort of get a bit of a fundamental understanding of gut health and things like that? I mean, your background, you have a background also in nutrition and things like that as well, right?
Yes, yes, I do have her book. I love Dr. Natasha's work, and I've had that book for years, but I said, "Oh, maybe not yet, not yet, not yet." But whenever I was in here, I'm like, "This is the time. It's now time." So,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And how did you feel, when you started noticing improvements in the program? when you started implementing the protocol?
Yeah. So when I started, I didn't know what to expect. It was a bit of a juggling act, I will say, because my husband did have to take on more, but it was beautiful in that my husband was already taking on more. He can take on a little more for me to, do the things required, the limbic work, the cooking, just the being outside, things like that. It was a roller coaster at first. I will say like the body was doing its job. It was, getting things out. And looking back now, I'm just filled with wonder and awe that like, wow, when I give my body the right foods, the right sleep, like the right sunshine, the right rhythm, like it will respond for my benefit. And that's what I saw. Yeah, in about 3 months, I began just, like, feeling better. There were ups and downs, but I remember one day, I think I was washing dishes, and I just felt this crazy peace and calm that I hadn't felt, I think, since even before I had kids, where it was like, I didn't know it existed anymore for me. Like, I thought I was just in that constant state of fight or flight. I feel like that was one of the biggest things for me was just feeling normal. I don't know if that's a proper word, but I just felt so calm, which I wasn't at all for a very long time. I just felt this beautiful sense of calm. And I told my husband later, I'm like, wow, like that was, like, such a gift, whereas of course, it feels good to feel great in your body, but also just on a mind that was running nonstop and always worried and anxious, like, that was such a gift for me. Anyway, I always remember that, so there are much and I will say that was the first of many calm moments. It's becoming more and more just doing the limbic work and just anyway, honoring my body and, like, giving it what it needs when it comes to sleep, when it comes to nourishment, when it comes to sunlight and just yeah. Anyway, that was
Yeah. No, but that's great. That's amazing. What an amazing experience. I think, kind of, I come back to that topic of like what it's like to be a human again. When we can kind of rid ourselves of these layers of yeah, just like I think often it's an overreactive mind, and especially if we're stuck like in that fight or flight state, then the mind is constantly at attention and constantly on edge. And so your experience through that filter is one that's not calm, it's not like a general place of peace. So that when you can start to rewire the brain and let it know that everything is okay. And we can start to find that calm and we can start to rebuild the biology in the body and the stomach and all that sort of thing. Then the body just starts to relax again. And it's again, you kind of relaxing into what it feels like to be, like a healthy human experience. I think it's really interesting. We talk about the GAPS diet and we teach a modified version of Dr. Natasha's GAPS protocol, which is actually developed back in the early 1900s. There's a very interesting story that goes with that I was talking with Malia about the other day. And then we have the limbic work, which I've mentioned a couple of times. Maybe we can jump into a little bit more about that. And then lifestyle is another one of our big pillars. And then, of course, community. We'd like to bring people together so they can support each other. And that's a really big component of the program. But you've mentioned the limbic system a couple of times. What is it about that work that resonated for you in your sort of journey and maybe early on? And how was your feeling around it early on? Like it can be quite a commitment, to do the limbic rounds and things like that. Did you dive in with both feet or were you sort of umming and ahhing a little bit about it to start with and then you kind of got into it, or what was your journey?
yeah, so I will say at first I was very resistant because I just wanted to do something else for 20 minutes, my 20-minute blocks, a total of 60 minutes, of course, the limbic work. But I did the stacking where I stacked either lifestyle with it or like a detox bath where I'm like, okay, I'm in here for 20 minutes. This is a good time for limbic rounds. And
So with the
yeah,
stacking, I'll just explain that a little bit more because there are a lot of different habits that we're teaching people on how to basically structure their day in order to calm the nervous system down and start to rebuild. And so there's lots of different activities that we ask people to do as they progress through the program. At the start, there's just a couple of things. And then towards the end, actually kind of your whole life starts to shift a little bit in the way you're running your day. And of course, a busy mother and a lot of busy people in the program, it sometimes feels like that's too much. But we have a thing called stacking where you can do kind of multiple things at one time. So, for example, you're doing a detox bath and then you're also doing a limbic round whilst you're doing that. So, that's what we call stacking, just for a little bit of context for people.
yes. So any way you can stack. And so that's what I did. And I will say at first it was difficult, but then it became one of my favorite things to do where it was, and I love the way I did it because I often framed it towards things that maybe I was nervous or anxious about. So, like, I'm a mom of 3 little kids, and so I would focus on the thing that would cause me the most, like, stress or anxiety, like, maybe it was a child with a particular behavior, and I would do a limbic round where I just go in like, "Okay, this child did this," and, like, and I didn't focus on him at all, I just focused on me. Like, this is the way I respond, like, "Okay, I know I will need a deep breath." I'll put my hand on my chest, and then I just limbic round. I just said what it is, however it was I would resolve that particular situation. And in doing that, I just became who I wanted to be, which is kind of interesting, like, and those difficult things which would have, just made me very anxious or, like, made me angry. I was able to focus on those things that really were hard for me that I would, get stressed out. And then also just big things that were also kind of hard for me, like traveling was very hard for me. So just envisioning a wonderful trip, like from start to finish. I would break it up throughout my day, or even going to the store. I would take that and it's like, okay, how will I feel safe there? And I would just walk myself through those situations, like from the like littlest detail, like I'm wearing these jeans and my, keys are in this pocket, just things that I didn't even know I needed to like know or to help calm me. Like those Olympic rounds just help me live reality, if that makes sense. Whereas before I'm just in this frantic fight or flight state, it's like, no, like I know for sure I'll be going to the store with my kids. Like I know for sure tomorrow, like I'm going to be cooking this food. So it just helped me enter into what was real and not this fight or flight kind of tense state where it's like, okay, I used to experience anger or anxiety severely in these situations, but how can I do it differently? And it works. I don't know how to say that,
Yeah.
but like when you invest that time in it, and also, I will say it's also a time, I guess, for me just to to pray. Like I'm a spiritual person where I was able to pray or like visit my deceased mother, where I spend lots of time with her now through my limbic rounds. And and that's the something too. I just want to hone in as a mom. It's like, I don't have time to do this. Like, I don't have time to do 60 minutes of limbic work, but like, it's worth it. Like, it helps you to be a better mom. It helps you to be a
Mm.
better person. And well, we really have so much time. It's just, how am I spending that time,
Yeah.
like to better myself and to serve my family so that, I'm healthy enough to serve my family, which is such a gift
Yeah.
that I don't ever want it to be taken from me again. So,
It's a funny thing, isn't it? And I'm curious on the early stages when you had that resistance to starting. because I feel like we are almost caught in this scarcity thing, right? And yes, a lot of us are very busy, got a lot going on, running businesses, running families, contributing to communities, corporate jobs, a lot of people that come through our program, we have doctors, lawyers, busy moms, like all sorts of like very active people. And I think that the time illusion is I just don't have time for that. But I think that what is very interesting is that when you undergo these exercises, it actually kind of cultivates and gives you back time. you know?
Absolutely.
So I'm curious about that. What was your initial resistance at the start there where you were like, you said that there was resistance and then it sort of sounds like you fell into more of a routine and there's a kind of a paradigm shift that happens there, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, I will say the resistance that I think, this is just my mind, is because you cannot have like, when you're doing it, there's no physical or tangible outcome that you can see. I think
Mm,
we're very, like, product oriented where we wanna, like, you wash the dishes, you get clean dishes, or you fold the laundry,
yeah.
like, there's an
Action,
outcome.
result, action, result. Like I want a
Absolutely.
fast result. Yeah.
Yes, and, like, other lifestyle things, like, where we're doing them, it's like it requires some action, and then there's, a result that you either feel or see or perceive, but with the limbic work, it's only you and your mind, which can be a very uncomfortable place for a lot of people I know, including me. It's like, okay, like, I've been in solitude before, but to do it very consistently throughout your day is a
Mm,
whole nother level, and so I just had to take it bit by bit, and I will say one of the things that really helped me was in a community call when someone was having difficulty, like, they were just saying, like, it was really hard for them, they can't really do the limbic rounds, like, it's very hard for them to do it, and the practitioner said, like, "What do you have to lose?" Like, if you if you do it, like, it will only help you, but if you don't do it, it may not help you, and so it's just I think that really helped me, it really convicted me to I'm like, "Okay, I'll do baby steps, let's do baby steps," and so Epsom salt bath was where I started, so that was great for me, and then I began to build it into, like, in the mornings where it was quiet for me, I was able to do that then, and then my kids it's beautiful too, I will say, my kids have a quiet time in the afternoon where it's quiet, so I can have that quiet time, and I now see it as, like, my dessert where I get to have 3 pieces of cake every day where it is a treat for your brain, it truly is,
yeah. It is amazing when you have that paradigm shift and it feels like you fall into like a new reality almost where taking that time for yourself and just finding that space to reconnect and go through some of these exercises where it just really brings you back into kind of the present, right? And maybe away from the fight or flight that can sometimes sneak up in us in the day if we've had something that happens and then we kind of don't realize, but we sort of stay in that state for the rest of the day or for the rest of the afternoon. And it's not until you find that time where you can actually be with yourself and do some of those exercises that actually bring yourself back into the moment because it's so important because, people will really focus in on the diet and things like that. And then they'll put the limbic work or the lifestyle things aside, but they don't realize that when you're stuck in that state, you've got so much cortisol coursing through your body, adrenaline, all these sorts of things that you don't actually absorb the nutrients of the diet that we're doing to heal your gut, and which in turn heals the nervous system and endocrine system and all that sort of thing. And just the importance is not placed on that. But that's one of the things that we really focus on because we know the importance of that part of it. So you mentioned the community there. I'm curious to ask, could you tell me maybe a little bit about the ways in which the program offers support, practically and sort of emotionally, either through the practitioners or as well your experience with the community and how that helped you along the way?
Gosh, I will say that the community aspect and the support provided through the program helped me do the impossible Because, like, I knew the GAPS diet, I knew, like, cold showers were good for you, I knew, like, habit was good for you, but it was just brought up for me to another level. It brought it to another level in that I'm on a call every day, sometimes with my kids, but I'm on that call every day. I'm, asking questions and they're getting answered. I'm making sure, like, I'm okay when my spouse is like, "You don't look okay." Like, they think I'm okay. This is die-off or whatever it might
Yeah.
be. So, like, I just kept pushing. So just having just this, I don't know, like, this assurance or this, like, camaraderie where I'm not the only one going out with my thermos of soup, to Easter meal, so it's like I'm not the like, especially when you're in, like, groups where it's like, "Okay, so and so is also in this with me." Just remembering these people from the calls and just hearing their stories and their transformations and other people asking really great questions that I didn't even think to ask, but I get to, learn a lot through them. Yes, I will say it's amazing the support provided. Like,
Mm.
mind blowing that it's just especially as, like, a mom where, like, things are, they're okay if I have kids talk where someone's hurt or is running, I'm still able to be present and attend, and also just the volume of knowledge is amazing. I've learned so much, and I'm telling everyone I know about, like, "Well, it's because of this. It's your gut bacteria that's controlling that. So it's a die-off or that's oxalate." So, yes, just I learned so much. It's very encouraging. I will also say something that was also such a gift is whenever we talk, like, we come to this program, the Integrative Health Foundation, because we don't feel good, like, but it's beautiful and that is not the focus. Like, it is, it's there. We might have questions about it, but it is not the focus. The focus is like, are we doing what we are supposed to be doing? How are we showing up? Like, are we really investing in our health? And that was very hard for me at first where it's like, I did wanna just say, "This is hurting," or "That's hurting," or "What can I take for this?" But it's just like, "Alright, can I just simply allow my body to be and to heal?" And then, like, rest I just say, "Rest is the best medicine." Give yourself a couple like, I just had to have some couch days where it was just couch day time. So that was something else that I was very blessed by that just it's there, but it's not the primary focus, so
Mm. Yeah, 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 that's wonderful. Yeah, I think, that's kind of I think a lot of the program is, people can get on their diet and things like that, and even if they have everything in terms of the knowledge, as in the step by step, this is what you need to do. I think that's kind of like 20% of it, almost, because it's like actually then, okay, you know what to do, but when you start going on the journey, the body the body is always working for you, right? That's one of the key concepts that we convey to everybody and educate them on is the body is always trying to work for you. And so when you give the right environment for the body to heal, then it will love you for that and it will go through and start healing its own systems, which is just the most amazing thing ever. But in that process, lots of things happen, and it can be a little bit painful sometimes as the body's healing or it's getting rid of oxalates. I remember I had this huge oxalate rash that would come up on my arm, and it was like bubbling, and it looked terrifying. But when at first I was like, "What's this? What's going on? There's something wrong." But when I ask and inquire about it, okay, it's oxalates. And because I've reduced my oxalates, the body's now removing the oxalates from the body. It's got more time to work on removing some of these things rather than just battling all the things that have been, fed to it on a daily basis. But when I had that knowledge, it's the sort of the concept of knowledge is power, right? When my arteries were hurting and when I understood what was going on there, then rather than having the frame of like, something's going wrong, I looked at it and kind of amazement really of like, wow, this is so cool. My body is healing. And even though it was a little bit irritating, I try not to itch it or whatever, or, not try not to think about my arteries when they were sore. But I just had this sense of like, wow, this is amazing. My body's healing. And I
Mhm.
think when you get that frame and when those things come up on the journey, of which they do, because it's such a journey, right? When you go on this healing journey, when your body starts to really detox these things, the process is really you've got to reframe, educate all the way up. I wanted to ask you your experience of life before and after in terms of your knowledge now. Like you mentioned that the knowledge that you have now in your experience of life and the way that you can do you feel like you can sense into now more kind of what you need? Because it's an ongoing journey, right? We have, you know, traumatic things that are happening sometimes, and, like there's events that go on that, like you're like, okay, what tool will I use to try and help myself kind of through this situation? And you can kind of intuitively listen to yourself a little bit more and what your body needs. Do you feel that more now?
Yes, absolutely. And I will say, like, it is very similar to what you were just saying, where I, instead of freaking out, what's going on with me? What's wrong? To now just like this reverence for what our bodies are capable of. Like it is like I said, looking back, I'm like, wow, like I just gave my body the right fats, the right sleep, the right, mental work, and it responded. And I will say, like, that was then, then I was very afraid, that fight or flight kind of mode where I just reactive, where I don't know what this is, and Doctor Google everything, which is not what I do anymore. Because, that knowledge is power. And instead of, when my kids get sick, or maybe I'll get a cold here and there, it's like, okay, like what do I need right now? Like my body is working so hard to get rid of something that doesn't belong. And like, how can I help it
Yeah.
versus, like, freaking out, but also just I think it's also a beautiful place to approach it with curiosity.
Mhm.
And just I think something else that I have gained now that I hadn't then is just how intricately connected, the limbic, the mental, our spiritual experiences are to our body. Like, there are things that happen where, just for example, in January, my brother got married and my mother wasn't there. Of course, she had since passed. But there was this joy and then there was also this deep sorrow felt by all of us siblings. And it's so fascinating. Like after the wedding, we all got sick, all of us siblings, where it was just this, sorrow that needed to go. And, it all went out various ways, but not dismissing that. Whereas before it's just like, oh, I ate something bad or I was around that sick person. But I really need to be attentive to like my nervous system, to that, like allowing grief or allowing, sadness if it's there, addressing it and just, letting it go in various ways, however people do that. But just for me to really take time if I need it to allow that to pass. So that was
Mm.
something that's very beautiful that I have gained.
Yeah, that's amazing. But you said they're letting go, and I think there's a book called Letting Go, and it's a really
Oh,
wonderful.
really?
And I think that's such a key concept. It's just as you go through the process, is just letting go and tuning into your body. And I think that is really one of the amazing things that happens on this journey is that you really start to tune into your body and what it's like going through an experience of die off or detox. And, I guess healthy people don't get to experience that. So they don't know what it's like. But it's actually an amazing experience and tuning in with your own body. And so you know what that's going to be like in future. And And I think there's a trust that's gained in your body after you go through this period of time that you're like, wow, my body can heal from, such a state of dysbiosis to bring back to like a level of grounded calm and health, vibrant health.
Absolutely.
There's one thing I would like to ask you and just get your thoughts on is the process. I think there's a process that we go through, and I think there's an impatience that develops in a lot of us when we're going through this, and we sort of think, "Oh, what else can I do? Is there something else that I can do to get a better result?" There's a lot to learn in the program, right? There's every week we're sort of incorporating a new habit, and I think some people can look at it and go, "Okay, but there's this other thing over here, or maybe this other thing over here will kind of help me." And sometimes they don't sort of just really embody and go all in. And what we've noticed is the people that do go all in, like, they get better. Like, that's it. If they commit to the limbic work, if they commit to the lifestyle, if they commit to the food, it's like 100% success rate. And we have a study being published soon about that. But would you have anything to say to somebody who's sort of really not going all into the program? They're taking bits and pieces from it maybe, and they're thinking, "Oh, I'll take that," or "Maybe that'll work, but I'll leave that one because that seems a bit hard." And I think the limbic work is often that one thing that's like, that's a bit that's gonna take a lot of time. I don't think I'm gonna commit to that, but I'll look for something else. Would you have anything to say to those people that are going through that?
Hmm. I think I would say you don't want to do it halfway. Like, why would you want to heal halfway? Like,
Mm,
and I think that's what got it for me with the limbic work, which was like the hardest thing. Like, give me any diet, I'll follow it. But if you're asking me to like do a limbic round, like that's a little bit harder for me. But I wanted to fully heal. And
mm,
I know it can be tempting to look for other answers whenever we don't like what's gifted to us, where we're like, oh, maybe I could get away with it, or maybe that person says I don't have to do it. So I'm just going to hold on to that. I would say just dive in as uncomfortable as it is and give yourself like a reward because we love rewards. Like, what happens at the end of those 20 minutes, like, or 10 minutes or 5 minutes? It's like, I'm just gonna go sit in the sunshine, which is for me is a treat, but for some people, maybe it's not, or maybe it's like, I'm gonna lie down, like, that'll be my treat, or I'm gonna go pet my dog, whatever it is, like, if you need an incentive to do something, like, have a little reward after doing that hard thing, which for me, that was sitting outside, which I love sitting outside, but also it's not like, life can be so long and also so short. Why not say yes 100%? Like, why not give a full yes, like, with everything that you've signed up for and just see if it works, like,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Very, very well said. Very well said. Um, okay, may I ask, how has your journey impacted your family dynamics and relationships and even sort of general outlook on life?
Gosh, how has it impacted my family? I've realized I have a most amazing, heroic husband who's able to just help me in any way possible. Gosh. And now I will say the family dynamics, I think prior to this, I said, no, I couldn't do this because I'm a mom, but it has reversed for me where I should do this because I'm a mom, because who's taking care of, the kids and my spouse, if not me, that I want to. And so it was difficult at first to be like, I have to set these boundaries where, like, I do need these 2 hours in the morning, or there is going to be a quiet time for the kids where, or I am going to just shop once a month because that's all I can handle with physical and mental things. So, like, honoring just me as an individual, which it was very hard for me to do that before, but, like, okay, what does mom need first? Like, putting on my oxygen mask so that I can breathe in order to help my family. So my family kind of stepped in and they they showed up in the little ways that they could. And it's still happening, although I'm able to do more where I am out of that fight or flight state. And I will just say I've been having repeat moments of just that time at my kitchen counter, looking out and just that window there, feeling that calm, but feeling it with my kids, feeling it in very, like situations before that would have put me into fight or flight, just having that calm and just like, okay, like we have three things today and it's okay. I feel like I can communicate much better to my spouse. So whereas before I was just like mumbling or he's like, you didn't say that. So like communication is much better. That brain fog has been lifted. And I'm actually like, this is a beautiful thing for me is to be really present to my kids. Whereas before it's just like, I'm like this intense fight or flight or like not knowing how to play with them or just being worried or just kind of frantic in my brain where I wasn't able to be calm or present. And I'm just able to sit and be with them and play with them and have them help me. I don't know. It's just getting sweeter and sweeter. I don't know if that makes sense, but every day, like, let's see. I will mention this where things where I used to just complain about or just be like dishes or laundry or this mess on the floor. I find gratitude in it now. Like I feel like privileged to be able to wash and fold my family's clothes, whereas before it was so hard for me or to like cook them a meal or to, I don't know, just calmly respond to a question, as simple as that is, to like stop and really think like a normal person, I guess, and respond. Yes, I don't know. It's very sweet. I will, I don't know. That's a concise
That's very
answer, but it's
beautiful.
just very sweet. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. I think that's a really beautiful message because I think there's even to the mums, I think there's a lot of mums out there that are very, very, they just got so much going on in their life. They're trying to take care of their kids and maybe their partner and their extended family. And if they're involved in the community and they're just, you know, there's a lot going on. And I think it's really difficult sometimes for that mum to take time for herself and even to invest in a program like ours, where there might be a bigger investment required. It's like, oh, I don't want to take the family money that could be spent on something else. And I think it's a big decision for people to make. What would you say to maybe a mum that would be considering joining the program that might have been might be in a current state of maybe where you were in her evaluation of thinking about, okay, do I do this? I don't want to take from the family. I feel like I'm taking, or I don't feel like I could have that time for myself.
The way I saw it and the way that brought me peace was like, this isn't for me. It's not. It's for them. Because what did they have whenever I was just in frantic mode, like super tired? They didn't have the mom that I felt I wanted to be and that they deserved. And so I wasn't taking anything. I was like really giving them the gift of their mom back. That's the way I saw it, and I see it today, and I hope all moms who are in my s can who are in my place could see that, because you can't put a price on it. Like, you can't
Mm,
put a price on being there for your kids and for your spouse, and, like, there's just so much, for me, joy to put my husband's clothes in his drawer or to hang up his clothes or to have a hot meal for dinner is a gift. It is truly
mm,
to
mm.
be present to your family. and also to just be aware when you need help and can ask for help, which isn't a problem, by the way, you moms. Um, so it is a way of asking for help, but the return is beautiful. Yeah.
Mm, mm. Yeah, I think those years can race by pretty fast, as a mum or a dad. And, all of a sudden they're 2 and then they're 10 and then they're 15 and,
Yeah.
long after leaving the crib. And I think, yeah, the years can really disappear. But I feel like when you really give yourself that gift of health and the reframing and the ability to be more present and less reactive. And I think I've seen so many times that the mums and the dads just become much better role models for their children in their lives. And I think it's also aspirational for the kids to see mum and dad go through and commit to a hard thing for a period of time and to watch that transformation happen. And I think it may not be seen at the time, but I think that's a really beautiful thing for the kids to witness at whatever age they are. And I think it would give them a lot of, I think it gives them a lot of values, to see the values that role model is instilling in their life and how that can actually transform their life. And the fact that you can transform your life at any moment if you commit to doing that. So I think it's a really beautiful thing to witness from when parents and things like that are going through. And I often hear about how the relationships with the kids are improved so much. And then also in turn, the knowledge that's acquired throughout this is often passed on to the kids, and the kids change their diet a little bit, or mum or dad start teaching them a little bit more about the limbic system and how to handle emotions and like all those sorts of things that come up, and actually quite pivotal for the trajectory of the children's lives as well, which I think is really cool. And I love the way you framed it there. And I think it's funny that sometimes we have to frame it in the way that I'm doing it for somebody else, but it becomes a beautiful gift for everybody else as well. Yeah. Yeah. So thank you for sharing. One last question. Yeah. Is there anything else that you'd sort of like to add to someone that may be considering joining the program? Maybe they're on the fence and they're going through, a challenging health situation at the moment. Maybe they've been chronically ill for 10, 20 years and tried everything in the different systems and things like that. Is there any message that you would share with them?
Gosh. This is hands down the program that covers it all. Like the diet, the lifestyle, the limbic work, the habits, that you form. I can't recommend it enough. Like I absolutely can't. It is a lot of work, but it is so worth it. It is, if you say yes, give it your 100% yes. Gosh, yes. And I cannot recommend it enough.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, I really appreciate it, and I appreciate your time. It's been wonderful to watch you go through the journey and the improvements that have been made. How long ago now was it that you started the program?
So tomorrow, March 25th, is my 1 year.
Wow.
1 year.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And you've also now joined the team, and you are our head chef. So every week we have a cooking video, and you bring people into your kitchen and you take different parts of the diet and you walk them through on a live video where people turn up for those calls and asking questions as you go through and cook, which has been amazing. So I just wanted to thank you for being part of the team and showing people how to go through the kitchen and prepare some of these meals in an easy fashion. And you're just wonderful in those videos. And I know everyone has a lot of appreciation and love for you. So I just wanted to acknowledge that.
Well, thank you. I really enjoy cooking and I love having everyone in my kitchen on those days. So it's such a gift. Yes, of course.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Sarah. Yeah, I really appreciate you taking the time to do the video. And yeah, it's great.
Well, thank you, Scott, for keeping on and keeping this program, and providing a way for healing for so many people. So thank you. Thank you for
Mm,
your dedication to this program.
awesome. Thanks, Sarah. That was great. Really wonderful.